Good afternoon, ball knowers, or good morning, or whatever it is where you're at. I just got done watching the All Star break. Well, not just, I watched it yesterday, and I felt like I needed some time to kind of reflect on like why I thought this All Star break was just kind of lame, I guess is the right way to say it. It's been like this for a few years, so I can't say like I'm shocked or anything, but it felt like the players and the media especially like the TNT broadcast, Draymond, Charles Barkley, especially Kenny Smith, Shaq, just didn't sound like they really wanted to be there. So here's me reflecting on that. Also, I'm getting over a cold. I think that's pretty obvious, but that's why I sound like death. I want to start off and talk about the best part of All Star Weekend, I think, at least Saturday night wise, and that was the Sabrina versus Steph Curry 3-point contest. I felt like it was just such a fun idea, and the discourse around it is what you would expect a WNBA versus an NBA 3-point contest would be, but it was fun. I think it was generally a great experience. Sabrina beforehand was very adamant she wanted to shoot from the NBA line, and it was very nice to watch her just put up just as many points as the winning number was for the 3-point contest that happened just before it. She would have tied or won the 3-point contest that was happening beforehand. But despite knowing all of that, Kenny the Jet Smith, he just put a massive damper on what was kind of a cool moment. Not even kind of, it was really sick. Just like having the WNBA and the NBA compete. And Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. Literally the greatest shooter. There's no one been better than him. So, I mean, at the end of the day, him winning this was to be expected. I mean, he was favored. And it's just like he would have won the 3-point contest if he competed with the regular Heat with 29 points. This was a cool moment that should have been celebrated. And instead, Kenny Smith was like, oh, she should have shot from the WNBA line, and oh, she's shooting with a WNBA ball, so it's not the same. And it's just like, dude, what are you even doing here? Like, if you don't care, don't show up to work. If you don't care at all, can you at least fake caring? Like, this was a cool moment. I thought it was fun. Why the fuck are you being an asshole? This 3-point contest was the reason why the All-Star game was up 54% in viewership on Saturday as compared to last year. And it's obvious that this was a cool moment, and Kenny Smith was just a dickhead about it. It's very weird. Like, why aren't you celebrating what should be a celebration of the best talent in the NBA and the WNBA if they're participating? Sabrina shot very well. It's not like she got destroyed. She tied the best score that won the 3-point contest. Why is this even a conversation to be had? Even during the 3-point contest, Reggie Miller was kind of excited about how, the crowd was kind of getting into it. We'll get there, but the crowd wasn't great. But Kenny Smith goes on to say, like, you remember when Vince Carter dunked and took the roof off this place? That the dunk contest is what people care about. Like, that was during the 3-point contest. Like, oh, no one cares about this. What if young fans are watching this and are like, I love watching the 3-point contest? What if their favorite player was in it and they were watching him shoot? And then Kenny Smith goes, no one cares about this. Everyone cares about the dunk contest. Like, you're just turning fans away. You're doing a disservice to the weekend. You're just being an asshole. That's what you're doing. That's the general consensus here, is Kenny Smith was just being an asshole. And I like Kenny Smith. He's a great analyst. Well, he's a good analyst, and he's entertaining on TNT. It's just, this was like, did he have too many drinks before he got on the broadcast? Like, why was he being such an old head tonight? Anyway, that's enough about Kenny Smith, because at the end of the day, he didn't ruin the weekend. The weekend was what it was without him or with him. To get into the specific events, the skills challenge was kind of cool once you understand what the hell was happening. I get they revamped it, and I think it's cool. It's longer than it used to be. I like the team format. It's the skills challenge at the end of the day. It's nothing crazy. It's not going to blow you away, but I thought it was entertaining for what it was. Last year, I made a video. It doesn't exist anymore because it was on a different channel, but I was talking about how they should replace the skills challenge with a 1v1 challenge, or with a 1v1 tournament. I still stick by that. I think it would be much cooler, but I discussed how that might be feasible and like the bracket and such. And I just think at the end of the day, unless they're playing with like 3 or 4 dribbles, guys aren't going to play just because of risk of injury, unless you put a big cash prize at the end of it, which I said we should. $500,000, $250 to the player, $250 to a charity. The winner gets, a trophy, such and such, of the best ISO player in the NBA if they win the 1v1 contest. I think players might show up for that. I hope they would, and I think it would be a great addition to the weekend, but I don't necessarily think it should replace the skills challenge. We'll get there. I've already talked about the 3-point contest. The dunk contest had multiple issues, mostly revolving around the fact that the judges don't know what the fuck they're doing. And like every year, the judges like change what's a 10. Well, I guess what's a 50 now, which by the way, we should move back to the 10-point average. Like if you're just going to use 46 and up, we might as well just use a star scale. But even then, everyone would just be like, oh, this is 4 out of 4 stars, this is 5 out of 5 stars. I feel like they made it 50 because there were too many ties. That's exactly why they made it 50, but I think it should be back to 10 and just take the average. I don't know why we got rid of that. I feel like, oh, that's a 10 is like as perfect as it can get. Like that's the definition of 10 out of 10. And when you go, that's a 50, like you imagine, like to me, that sounds like, oh, dude, you failed the shit out of an exam. Like that's what I think. Maybe that's just semantics, but Jacob Toppin didn't move on to the second round. Instead, Jaylen Brown did. I had money on Jaylen Brown, which legal reasons I don't think I'm allowed to say, but I had fake money on Jaylen Brown on a fake book. Anyway, Jacob Toppin definitely should have made it, and they just penalized him for missing a dunk. Jaylen Brown was obviously the less exciting dunker. Like he dunked over Kai Cenat, who's like 5'3", and he was sitting. Like a big fucking deal, bro. Like no one cares. And I know this commentary has been done to death, but I just think it's funny how the NBA continues to drag Mac McClung out there like he's some circus animal. Like, oh, check this dunker guy out. Like he didn't average the third most points in the G League last year, and he won the championship and had 30 and 8 in the final. Like at the end of the day, it's just kind of his archetype, like small guards that put up a lot of points. Unless you're ultra efficient like Trae Young, you're probably not going to get a spot. I remember Carson Edwards from Purdue. I thought that dude was a hooper. I thought he was going to crack the Celtics rotation, and he did like a couple times, and now I don't even know where he is. As for the All-Star game itself, it sucked, not gonna lie. The East went up by 20 points, and it just stayed like that for most of the second half. Actually, not most of the second half, the entire second half. There wasn't much going on. Last year, I suggested that they should replace the All-Star game with like a 3v3 big three kind of tournament. I don't know why I really said that. I don't know how to solve this issue. I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I have the answers. How you get these players to give a shit, I have no idea. But at the end of the day, I think most players look at it like this. They say it's the All-Star break. It's a break. They're coming here to chill, relax, not take things very seriously, have fun. And I think it's a lighthearted weekend at the end of the day. And if the NBA wants to lean into that, I feel like that's more of the route they should probably take, because that's what the Pro Bowl did. And it's not like the Pro Bowl is great, but the NFL, again, is like a totally different monster, because your sport is literally just people running into each other as hard as they can and tackling them to the ground. The NBA is not like that, but you're one twisted ankle away from being like, oh, these players are going to stop going to All-Star weekend, which I can't imagine they would stop going even with something like that, but I don't know how you get them to care. At the end of the day, it's just a break to these players. And yeah, I mean, while it's not the best product to put out there, and we don't necessarily have, how should I say this? Adam Silver was on the Pat McAfee show, and he was talking about how we don't have a neutral ground NBA Finals, which for obvious reasons, I think that makes sense. But this is kind of like our neutral ground event he was talking about. And he was obviously upset after the All-Star game, just like pissed off the fact that the players just don't care. Like Jokic and Luka always have a competition on who could give less of a shit about the All-Star break. And I think it's pretty entertaining. Like when they were passing the ball back and forth, not letting it touch the ground. Like that was kind of fun. But at the end of the day, it's not an actual game. It's just something. It's something. It's just a scrimmage. It's not even a scrimmage. Like they don't even care. Like you wouldn't catch me paying a lot of money to sit even remotely close to the All-Star game. I think I would go to a couple of events surrounding the All-Star game, maybe visit a few podcasts, but I would not be at the actual game. And I don't think I'll watch it next year. I barely watched this year because I was hooping, and then I showed back up at my apartment and it was on. I was like, all right, I'll watch second quarter and on, and it was, mildly entertaining, but at the end of the day, it's a thing, and I don't know how you fix it. And I'm not going to try to fix it, because last year I tried to fix it and I just came up with a stupid idea. So yeah, that's all I got. Y'all take care. Have a good one.